So eventually I got married, had a kid, and sort of mellowed out. But yeah, that was some of the stuff that I was doing in school. There's also, maybe I can show this too. This is a thing that Penn Ward, the creator of Adventure Time, and I worked on when we were in school. And we never finished it, but he was animating it, and I was doing the backgrounds and the cleanup and stuff on the animation. This character in this made an appearance in Adventure Time in the first season, Manish Man, the Minotaur. So this is like a video that doesn't have sound. Yeah, so we didn't finish it then. Okay, so while I was in school, Penn pitched Adventure Time to Frederator, and basically he went in and pitched it to Fred Seibert and Eric Homan and the other guys at Frederator, and it made everyone laugh, and they said, okay, leave the room, we're going to talk about it. And then Penn left the room, and Fred was like, yeah, we can't make this, right? This is like crazy. And Eric's like, yeah, but we were laughing, like maybe we should just make it. And Fred's like, I don't know. And Eric's like, yeah, just like, give me this one, we'll make this one, because I think it's funny. And so Eric convinced Fred to make it. And then, after it got made, Fred was like huge, like, oh wow, that actually worked. It all worked for that pilot. But that was all happening while I was still in school. My only input on the pilot was the rhombus joke and the oxymoron joke, if you've ever seen the pilot. Test. But this was something that I was developing, and this was happening around the same time that I was working, that I had gotten a job on Flapjack. And the way I got the job on Flapjack was I happened to know J.G. McHale, and they were looking for storyboard artists, and he was the creative director on that show. And Thurop didn't know who I was and wasn't that interested in hiring me. But JG was like, oh yeah, maybe give him a shot. So they called me up, and they said, hey, Pat, with MIDI music playing, I feel the earth move on. And I just heard like this explosion of laughter from the speakerphone, and they're like, there's nothing else to click on. Is that all you have on your website? And I was like, well, if you change the date, because it was like at the top in the URL thing, it'll go back to like the previous day. So they changed the day before, and it was like just a different drawing of a cat with the same wallpaper and a different MIDI file. And then they kept doing it. It was just a bunch of cats. And basically I got a job because of that. But I also sent in like scripts and other stuff after that. But it was sort of like a good first impression somehow. Is like that I was just, and again, just making stuff and putting it out there, whether or not it makes sense to people, like if it's something that like the right person finds interesting, then suddenly it can kind of lead in interesting ways. The way Rebecca Sugar got her job in Adventure Time is just we were online, and we saw her stuff, and we were just, oh, we gotta get her before someone else does. Like, we were just really big fans of like what she's doing, and she was doing like these weird drawings of like, Ed and Eddie like making out and stuff. So this is so good, and so yeah, you never know, which again doesn't help like this panel surviving animation. Like it's sort of just like I keep saying it over and over, but it's just like make stuff that you care about. And there's always this thing about like, should you make stuff for your audience or should you make stuff for yourself? Making stuff for your audience is sort of selling out or whatever. Making stuff for yourself is sort of not thinking about other people and whatever. But I think there's a balance that you can find. Both of those things are important. When you're working on someone else's show, you have to work for them, and your boss is your audience essentially. And then when you're making stuff for yourself, it's a good way to just let out stuff. A lot of the stuff I've shown you is more just like me, just working out ideas and experimenting. But I think the best balance is when you can think of yourself as your audience, and you're making stuff that you would actually want to watch, not stuff you want to make necessarily. It's way hard. It's it's fun to make stuff, but it's not fun to make stuff when you realize like this isn't something I want to watch. Like that first film with the farmer and the cow. Like that was fun to make, and like it gets a reaction, but it's sort of embarrassing and gross. And it's like not necessarily the thing that I would, if I saw it online, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I would just be like, yeah, there's another one of those weird films online. But like trying to think of like, what is the thing that I actually want to see? And then trying to make that, and that's what's the hardest thing to do. And so that's, with Adventure Time, it was a little bit more. When that got picked up, it was a little bit more just we wanted to. What would we want to see if we were kids? Like we would want this, we would want this, we would want this, and just kind of shoving it all into one place and kind of forgetting about certain rules. But then there's always this logic that's kind of held behind the scenes on Adventure Time that makes it have a little bit more substance. So that, like, I remember there was a time when Penn was pitching this idea for Finn, like yelling at the sun and like, punching him out of the sky or something, and Penn had kind of told me like, make sure that we don't get too crazy, because we need to keep it grounded, or else you're going to lose the emotional investment and all that stuff. And I had like, no, we can't do it, Penn. But it's funny, just one time, it'll be fine. We can't do it. And like, it was like a real big bummer of a meeting. But in the end, it was like, ah, you were right. We can't punch the sun in the sky. And so, yeah, there's these kind of things. I'm babbling. How much time is there? I don't want to. Let's see. I skipped over working on Flapjack, which was really fun because the way Thurip runs his show is sort of just you can do whatever you want, and then he just judges it afterwards. And so it was just kind of neat. Like I remember the first pitch I did for Thurip on Flapjack, it was going pretty well. Well, I mean, it didn't go well for me at first because I had made it really long, and like I was like, no, I don't want to cut anything. Like I gotta see them. Like keep all these jokes. I want to see the reactions, and all the jokes died because it was just real, too long. People just got what's the story about, and so I realized with TV you really have to cut a lot of the fat out, and especially in the beginning, to just get the audience invested in it quickly. So that was my first lesson with that. But also, there was this joke that I had Flapjack say. There was some sort of kind of mean-spirited a little bit, but it was funny, I think. I don't remember what the joke was, but when I pitched it, and I was like looking at Thurip, and he just like scowled. I was like, oh no. And then he was like, Flapjack wouldn't say that. Flapjack wouldn't say that. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And that was like my first pitch in the industry. And so I realized, how important just staying in character and all that stuff was. And it was that first pitch was like a disaster. And then after that, I worked really hard to try to entertain Thurip. And it wasn't about making stuff for kids. It wasn't about making stuff for myself. It was just like, I want Thurip to laugh. And if he laughs, then it'll be fine. And so that's sort of how I approached working on Adventure Time too. Is like if Penn has a really good sense of story and character and what people are going to find interesting. And so if I could get Penn to be invested in something that I was working on for it, then that would be good. Wow, this is kind of let's see if there's anything else to show. I hope we're not talking. No. Well, maybe I'll talk about this. This is maybe the last thing I'll talk about. Maybe the questions. I know I'm skipping over a lot of stuff. I have another panel to do tomorrow, which is more about Over the Garden Wall. so I was going to try to save a lot of stuff for that. But anyway, I don't know if any of you guys know Nate Cash's work. Nate Cash worked on SpongeBob, and then he became creative director, first supervising director or something on Adventure Time after I left to just become a writer. And recently he emailed me asking for like advice about writing and drawing, which was like incredible to me and exciting because I sort of looked up to him. He was older in school. He worked on The Simpsons and all sorts of stuff. And I think just sometimes you get into a place where you just don't like what you're doing, and sort of you want to hear some feedback about like how can I get better, how can I improve. And I bring that up only because I know a lot of people who are working on their own art and all that stuff feel that same way. But like people in the industry, you continue to do that, and you're going to continue to do it for the rest of your life probably. It's just feel like I'm not good enough yet. I'm not good enough yet. But anyway, he asked me for some advice, and I was trying to like, what am I going to say to Nate about advice? His drawings were so solid, his writing is so good. But I remember some advice that J.G. Quintel told me about not overthinking things too much, which was just if you write something and you're laughing and it's funny, by the time you make it, at the end of the process, you're going to hate it. It's not going to be funny anymore to you. But just try to remember that it's funny. Like try to savor so that you don't like start hating what you're working on. It's like it was funny. Remember that? Remember when we pitched it and it was funny? And so to try to keep that alive. And I have something here. It says pencil sharpeners! Exclamation point. And that is Somebody iPhone is a server I was on Adventure Time, and he's a big inspiration to me and Penn and all sorts of people, just because of his ideas. Now, like I only buy a Panasonic, and like I'm like always like I don't know that sharpener doesn't really sharpen the right way I like it, and like I got into it, and I bring that up because everyone has different interests. He happened to be interested in pencil sharpeners, but people have all sorts of different interests, and it's not necessarily like the interests that make something interesting. It's like the love of that interest and how you present it makes something interesting. So like something like Quentin Tarantino, we're not all in love with those 70s exploitation movies, and we're not all in love with Quentin Tarantino's movies, but he loves that stuff so much that you can feel it when he makes movies. He's finding deeper ways to like present that stuff, and he's just using that as like a facade for the personal stuff that he's trying to put out there. And that's the way Adventure Time is too. Like the facade is just like this, these simple drawings in this fantasy world, but like there's kind of at its heart, like all these personal stories, this stuff with Marceline, a lot of it had to do, when I was writing it, with that crush that I talked about, earlier, when in like certain situations with her, and yeah, as much as it's just stuff for kids or whatever, like everyone is, using what they know to write stuff. And I can see all your faces. This is too many people. So maybe I'll make something about having to talk in front of people. Yeah, I'm losing it. I think maybe we should do some questions so I don't go off the rest too much here. Okay.
You know the real reason they canceled Flapjack? Like if you can say it, if you don't,
well, there was a big changeover at the studio where like a lot of new executives and new people, and so I think it was just they were trying to start fresh. And they started doing, I remember like there was like live action stuff, they tried that and all that. There was a big change. There was a good speech that Rob Sorcher, the guy in charge of creative now, gave us at an all-staff meeting, which was, he was kind of talking about where we were. It was, Adventure Time was just starting up, and I think regular show was just starting up. And he was like, okay, so we're not number one. Disney's number one. We're not number two. Nickelodeon's number two. We're number 3 out of 3, studios that made stuff. And so like maybe we should just embrace it and like be the weird kid on the block who's doing his own thing, and just like make stuff, enjoy making stuff, and then hopefully people will like what we're doing. And so that's sort of how they approached it. And it was unfortunate that Flapjack and Chowder kind of missed out on that, because I think they were really neat shows. Yeah. I think going to CalArts was really good. It was more about the people that I was hanging out with, and kind of feeding off each other creatively. So I think it's really about finding people that you connect with creatively and trying to make each other better. Like, I felt so intimidated by hanging out with, I mean, people I went to school with, like J.J. Quintel, Alice Hirsch, Penn Ward, like, and then people went on to go to Pixar and Disney and all these people, and it was like, how am I gonna, compete? But it was like, oh no, let's not compete. Let's just like hang out and like do stuff together. And I think now there's online communities where you don't necessarily, I mean, I recommend going to CalArts or going to RISD or whatever schools, Sheridan or whatever school, but you can also do it online, where there's just communities of people that are making stuff. And, yeah. But one more thing about CalArts is when I was there, the focus was on becoming a filmmaker. For some reason, Frank Terry, who was the project in charge of it, really was focused on like having a well-rounded skill set rather than focusing on jobs. And so it kind of created a lot of people that wanted to become creators and wanted to tell stories like from a personal place. And so that might have been part of the reason why so many people that I went to school with ended up like making a name for themselves. Hello? And maybe this.
Sorry, a bit of a timid voice here. So my question is, you talked about Bravest Warriors and your production on that, and it kind of got away from you when Pendleton Ward was working on that in school while you were still working in animation. When he went to go and become a director, and you went to go work for him, did it seemed as if you guys were probably friends at the point in school. Was there any rockiness that you guys were able to patch up? Because it seems as if you started to write shows later with him that you were able to do that. Like, how did you get over that? It seems like it was a little personal, but I was curious.
No, it was just we were all making stuff together, so it was like, yeah, there wasn't any. I mean, yeah, Penn and I are working on something now. Yeah, I guess I just brought that up because it's like, I felt like, I don't know, it was just interesting, interesting to bring out. But yeah, it was like, when I was working on Adventure Time, it was really hard. It was really hard to be in that position of like not being the creator and not really like, I was sort of like middle management, where like if I was a storyboard artist, I would like own the story, and then if you're creator, you own the whole show. But being creative director is like, am I gonna have a job? I don't know. I'm gonna have to do something else. so I thought, well, it'd be good to like do one film because I was working on Space Planet. That didn't happen because I dropped it once Adventure Time got picked up to work on that. And so I just brought back Tome of the Unknown and pitched that, and they let me make the pilot, which is amazing. And so then when they said like, would you like me to make a miniseries? I really wasn't thinking too much about like whether people would like it or not. It was more just like, wow, I get to make it. This is cool. But yeah, I'm always trying to think of like think about the audience's experience watching it. That's usually what I think about most of all. But I wasn't trying to make something that people would like the concept of. It was more like the concept was something that I liked, and then I wanted to make sure that when people were watching it, they would enjoy it.
One more question about miniseries. Do you think we're going to see more miniseries in the future, or
Cartoon Network is working on 2 miniseries right now. There's Long Live the Royals, and then they're doing an Adventure Time miniseries with like, is that a secret? I don't know. Well, I won't tell you what it's about, but I think they're doing that, and then maybe they're not doing that. I don't know. And then I feel like it's a neat thing, and they kind of they feel like they own that a little bit because no one's has been doing that too much. So I think they want to keep doing it, but we'll see how successful it is, because it's hard to gauge how successful The Garden Wall was. It did pretty well, but you can't really make like a whole product line from that stuff because it's only 10 episodes, and once people see it, then that's it. It's like that's it. So there's no merchandise or anything.
Oh, sorry. Is there going to be like a DVD or Blu-ray of the Garden Wall?
I don't know. I keep asking about it, but it's up to Cartoon Network. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think DVDs and Blu-rays don't really make a lot of money, so they just are thinking about that. It's like, if it's super successful, like Adventure Time becomes then they can make it. But hopefully, it would be really nice to put on the shelf.
Maybe if you read more from the now, can you talk a little bit about the transitioning from multi on now to a meeting series? How does that happen? Because I know it's also different topics, different standalone meeting series and that is
Yeah, Tome of the Unknown. Let's see. It was. I had originally had like 3 seasons kind of figured out or something. And not like all the stories, but like major arcs. But I didn't want to move back to LA to make anything, and so I just didn't think that it was going to get made into anything. And then when they said miniseries, like, oh, I can move back for like that. Yeah, like, absolutely that. So I said, well, what length would you want it to be? And I worked on it. Like, oh, it's 18 episodes, solid 18 episodes. And I kind of worked out those stories. And then they're like, okay, we're going to greenlight it. It has to be 10 episodes. No. So I had to cut out like half of the story and like make it work. And that was the hardest part. Like writing those 18 episodes was really not that hard, but cutting out half of that was like really hard. And so that's why there's like all those gaps and things. In like episode 6 with the Frog Boat in Adelaide, like it's just 2 episodes splashed together where there was supposed to be more and all that stuff. But we just didn't have enough time because we wanted to air it by Halloween, and so we had to do real quick. What's that?
You can talk a little more about the things that don't know.
Maybe I'll talk about it tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any projects that you're planning to work on right now?
What's that?
Projects you're working on right now?
Projects I'm working on right now. There's a thing that I'm pitching to Cartoon Network that would be like a special like a long form kind of special, in a similar vein to Over the Garden Wall, but not directly related. So we'll see if that happens. If the Adventure Time movie happens, I'm hoping to get on that. So we'll see about that. And there's stuff that I'm sort of working on that I can't really talk about. I think there's like 4 things that I'm working on, and none of them have been announced yet. It's not like they're going to be like groundbreaking, amazing things necessarily, but yeah, I don't know how much I can talk about it. But I'm helping Federator with something, and doing a comic book thing.
Do you have your own team or studio, or do you pitch ideas by yourself?
Just by myself. When pitching ideas, I sort of make a Bible, which kind of is like a pitch Bible, and it has a bunch of pages. Usually I would have the first page be just some sort of attention-grabbing image that kind of shows, oh, this is what this show is supposed to feel like. And the next page would be a description of the world and the show and the kind of the goal of what the show is. And then you go into the characters, just describe them and draw them, and one per page. Main characters, maybe some side characters mixed together to kind of show all that. That's probably the most fun thing for me. It's just designing that pitch Bible. It's the time when you can just dream up anything and just put it in, and none of it's like actual real stuff. So you can just make up random stuff. I actually had a pitch Bible. I'll talk about this one, but yeah, like when I first pitched Over the Garden Wall as Tone of the Unknown, Word's name was Walter. He like had scissors that he would cut stuff with, and it all kind of transformed into something else later. Did I answer your question? Yeah. What's that?
What is your best advice for during a cleanup phase animation?
Oh, for the cleanup phase? Yeah, listen. Well, I used to listen to a lot of radio shows, old-time radio shows, and so that made me feel like I was like learning something about, you know, old like culture from a different time period, and then also like terminology and phrases that were kind of interesting, and I would note them down, and then and kind of entertains you while you're doing something kind of monotonous. I think now that there's like so many podcasts and stuff, that's something else to do. Another thing is that when you're doing cleanup for storyboards, I started listening to Chameleonaire's Ride-In song, like on repeat. It's over and over again. So it's like about 5 minutes long, the song, and it has a perfect arc for like trying to accomplish a finalized cleanup drawing. So you just listen to that, and then when like there's like a car crash at the end, and then there's like another like maybe 30 seconds of just like banter. At that point you know like, oh, I gotta finish, and then the song starts again on repeat, and you're like, I gotta move on to the next one. So I used to do that on Flapjack just to get myself trained to go faster, 5 minutes per drawing, and then you can go back and fix it later. Right, and that's it. I don't know if I talked about what this panel was supposed to be about. Hopefully there was something worth saying. Is it over? Yeah, it's over. Okay.